the 40th President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, the great communicator. He is considered to be one of the best and most influential U.S. presidents in history. Most presidents give speeches and memorable statements during their presidency, but Reagan isn't known as a great communicator for just giving speeches.
Using his witty humor, strong one-liners, and powerful statements, Reagan connected with the public and other various demographics via an easy-to-understand and risible form of communication. This method of communication helped inspire other political figures to unite people.
As a young adult, Reagan graduated and was on the search for a job. He found one in the world of radio. Reagan believed that Hollywood fame and recognition was almost impossible to achieve, yet he reached for it anyways. He managed to land a job as a sports announcer at a radio station called WOC in Davenport, Iowa. The interview that ultimately gave him the job showcased his skills, those skills being his memory and ability to communicate with a very descriptive delivery. Audiences began tuning their dials on a daily basis to WOC. Reagan's following grew immensely, and so did his popularity, via sheer enthusiasm and skill. That even won him a better job at another radio station called WHO. Due to WHO's limited budget, they could not afford to send announcers to actual sporting events on location.
However, Reagan, once again being the skilled announcer he was, made things work very well with running accounts of the games via wire services and improvisations. He once again used his expertise with language to paint a picture for the fans, even though he nor they were in attendance. Reagan soon became a huge success and cemented his skills as an exceptional storyteller with his ability to embellish and turn an image into an event. Soon after, he landed a contract with Warner Brothers. Reagan's acting career started slow and steady, but within a few years, he already had a big role in a movie. He started getting more and more big parts in movies and received a lot of praise. Reagan's acting career enhanced his communication skill, where he fine-tuned his ability to convey emotions, thoughts, and most importantly, words. When the United States entered the Second World War, Reagan received requests to star in war films and in training films. Throughout his time in the military and starring in war films during the war, Reagan started forming his political views, which would stick with his post-career.
On November 4th, 1980, Ronald Reagan was elected president and was inaugurated on January 20th, 1981. He won by a landslide, cementing how popular he was with the American public, especially with the Republican Party. Additionally, during Reagan's inaugural address, he made sure to include various key points. The topics in his speech got their respective messages through. They were the economy, the current state of the government in 1981, and the people. Throughout the speech, he really wanted to hammer in how he felt, what the people needed, and what to do.
He does just this by telling a war story regarding Martin Treptow and how in his diary, he had written a pledge to his country, one that Reagan thought the American people should make, but with a different form of sacrifice. While telling the story, Reagan made great use of his speaking skills to embellish the story so that the people could be more inspired. This speech ensured the American people that they would be in good hands. Early on in Reagan's presidency, he was not afraid to show his true colors, a leader with a good sense of humor. He often joked about his age in many ways as he was the oldest president at the time. One notable case would be at the Washington Press Club salute to Congress dinner in 1981, when Reagan said,
"I know your organization was founded by 6 Washington newspaper women in 1919. Seems only yesterday."
Reagan made sure to maintain his status as a humor-filled president by making jokes left and right throughout his entire presidency. The meetings and gatherings he attended were not only filled by great people of the United States and Reagan himself, but were also filled with laughter and cheering.
Another similar occasion of that sort would be at Reagan's second State of the Union address in 1982. The State of the Union address is normally very formal and includes the president talking about the economic status of the country. Although, almost immediately, Reagan decides to make fun of the fact that he quoted George Washington. And the fact is that he did not hear Washington say it. Reagan stated, quote,
President Washington began this tradition in 1790 after reminding the nation that the destiny of self-government and the preservation of the sacred fire of liberty is finally staked on the experiment entrusted to the hands of the American people. For our friends in the press who place a high premium on accuracy, let me say, I did not actually hear George Washington say that.
Yet most of these very well-known jokes were often not improvised whatsoever. Reagan had an abundance of 3x5 index cards, filled with various one-liners that were used and put into his speeches. Reagan had the habit of revising speeches that his speechwriters wrote, but not in a way one would normally think. The speeches would be given back to his speechwriters with a joke that none of the writers had ever seen before.
This shows that Reagan was a comedic genius who created most of his jokes in his head and handpicked very rare and obscure, yet funny jokes. Reagan was also not afraid of ridiculing and taking jabs at his competitors and others regarding their beliefs. For example, a one-liner in one of his index cards says, "Campaign poster should read, 'Caution, voting for this man may be hazardous to your health, wealth, and welfare.'" Reagan was a well-coordinated man when it came to telling his jokes. It was obvious that telling jokes was one of his biggest passions, especially considering he used time and effort as a president to make and tell jokes that surprisingly aided his communication with the people of America. Reagan's communication was very efficient as it spoke and reached out to many demographics. However, his humor would go on to inspire other political figures to follow in his comedic footsteps, some of which being future presidents like Barack Obama and George W. Bush. George W. Bush is known to have been a below-average speaker since he would sometimes stumble while speaking. This would become known as Bushisms near the end of his presidency. He even made fun of it similarly to Reagan when something of notable concern was noticed by the public. Although Bush wasn't too heavy on comedy, his successor, Barack Obama, is probably just as good with reaching out to people as Reagan using humor, even if it was his political opponent.
A little less than a month away from election night 2008, Obama and his political opponent John McCain traded jokes at a charity dinner. Although some of the jokes were about politics, it wasn't harsh or filled with criticism. They were jokes one would make with a friend, friendly and kind. Reagan himself could be harsh at times, however, he would be friendly to a political opponent.
His humor helped him reach a lot of people, such as the Democratic leader of the Senate, Thomas O'Neill, who was willing to work with Republicans and Reagan to get stuff done, which is rarely done in most presidencies today due to the fact that both parties are very partisan today and not willing to cooperate with each other to make actual important and realistic changes. Thus the failure to do work and representing the people of the United States wrongfully since nothing is done. However, as we know now, Reagan managed quite the opposite all those years ago.
This humor and positive intentions has been lacking.
And it's never been so needed by a nation so divided.
It was the content. I wasn't a great communicator, but I communicated great things, and they didn't spring full bloom from my brow. They came from the heart of a great nation, from our experience, our wisdom, and our belief in the principles that have guided us for 2 centuries.